Hi, and welcome back to Plastic Models by a Regular Dude, and part number 6, Condensed, of the Dragon 1/35th scale SdKfz 251/21 drilling. Alright, first order of business, if you want to see the full step-by-step lengthy build video of these parts, or these steps, click on the link in the description box below, and I will hopefully remember to put a link in the end screen as well. Okay, so this is going to be condensed, but it may be a little bit longer than the other condensed ones because there's a lot to go over in this thing. So as I stated, this starts with step 14, and that is the gun mount, or the gun mount and pedestal. So first things first, we have to go back a few steps, because in this step here, when you work on this floor plate, it neglects to tell you that you need to drill a hole in the bottom of this, because on the flip side there's a indentation where the hole is supposed to go. You're supposed to drill a hole in that for the pedestal, because there's a pin on the bottom that goes through a hole in the floor, but it doesn't tell you to do that. Forewarned is forearmed, so keep that in mind if you do this kit and you can get this far in the video series before you actually start building it. Otherwise, it's not really that big a deal, because actually it's not this pin, it's the pin on the actual base, because this fits here, but I've already cut it off, because the way it's set up, you can just glue it in the bottom there. It's not really that big a deal, but it's just not one of those things with the instructions. So there is that. First thing you have to deal with is putting this sub-assembly together here. And let me zoom it out until I need to zoom it back in, because I just want you to see what's going on here. So this is the sub-assembly that is this right here, that all these smaller parts go on. So you have to put all this stuff together here, and then you can move on to these small parts. Now, one thing, and this comes up later, so hopefully you're seeing this now before you actually build the kit, because there is a part in step number 20, way up in step 20, when things are just like almost all put together. There's this part right here, F54, and yes, here it is, not on the kit, because once all the rest of this stuff's put together, there is no way on God's green earth that this thing can be put in there. Let me demonstrate. So it's supposed to go in here, up underneath there. Okay, see where that shows right there? The problem is there's a lot of stuff that has to happen. This little part here has to go up inside of that in there. These sides right here go up around the edge of the guns. And this part right here goes down inside of this kind of chute looking thing here, which I think is for spent ammo casings, shell casings. So there is no way to get that thing to fit in there after all this is assembled. So I'm not using it on mine. However, don't make the same mistake I did. Put it on during this step here, step number 14. Okay, there's no reason why you can't go on in this step, and it would be much easier, because you could put that onto this part here and then drop it down in there. Even if you don't glue it until after you get the guns and stuff, at least it will be set in there to where you can maneuver it into place. But alas, that is not to be on mine. All right, so the next thing are these feed chutes here. These the ammo comes from the ammo boxes up through that and into the receiver of the gun. And the way it's supposed to fit, and here's where we'll do some zooming in. This little teeny tiny pin right there fits in that little teeny tiny hole right there. And they want you to put those things in place without the guns there. And there's just not anything there to hold it in place, and that would be really problematic. So I think, I hadn't put them on there, but I think perhaps it could be put on after the fact. So the little pin goes in the hole, and then this feed chute here is right underneath the gun, because the ammo belt is supposed to come out of this into this and into the receiver of the gun. So as you can see, let's see if I can turn this around and get it to fit a little bit better. But if you see what I'm talking about here, that's not much to hold that in place. Now with the guns in place, it could be glued. So there you go. That would be something better done after the fact. All right, so that, then you get into putting in these small parts here, which are like these here. Not very positive locating holes and pins. There's a lot of wiggle room, so I just tried to get them as vertical as I could. Let's see, whoops. Oh, something that's pretty important that I haven't mentioned, and this goes all the way back to step number 5. Floor plate. There's supposed to be a hole drilled in the floor plate for the bottom of this. There's a pin that sticks off of here that's supposed to fit in that hole. Now the indentation apparently is behind this floor plate. I was told this by one of my my viewers. He pointed this out. It doesn't tell you to drill that hole, but the indentation is in the bottom of this plate, so you know where to drill it. So something to keep in mind, drill the hole before you glue the whole bleeding floor plate in. Not really that big a deal, because I just cut the pin off, and then whenever I glue it in, I'll just make sure it's centered. Before I let the glue set up. All right. So there's all those small parts there. Then we have step 15, which is more small parts. Not really that big of a deal, except for these feed chutes. But the rest of it goes together pretty easily. Then we get to step 16 with the guns. Now, my guns, the barrels were just demolished. Some of them were bent so bad that when I tried to straighten them, they broke. And then there were a few of them that were broken. So I had to fabricate some out of some, I think it was 8.8 mil round styrene rod by Evergreen. And I was just able to cut those. I drilled out, I cut the old barrels off, the broken barrels off, drilled holes in here, inserted a piece of rod, cut it to length, and I was able to put these fittings on there. Mostly okay. But that was just unique to my kit because it had broken parts. These parts right here are really small, but they're not too hard to do. Now what I did to paint this stuff is I assembled all of this as one unit. I assembled all of this as another unit, and so I could paint them separately. So I painted this, the barrels, separately from these. I painted these, the Dunkelgelb, like the rest of the vehicle. Then I assembled everything. That way I wasn't having to try and paint around everything. That's what I did, so it's no big deal. So then you have all the guns done. Now there are two different types of guns. There's the H and the J. The difference being the H guns have these flash hiders, and the J just has a straight barrel. These went together, no problem. Then you get into the ammo crates with the ammunition. And you're supposed to bend these things up and get them all wiggled around so they fit up through these chutes. There is no way that those would go through those without breaking those, because these are the ammo belts. They're very stiff. It would take a lot of manipulation to get them set up the way they're supposed to be. And like, for example, it's supposed to go down inside there. You know, it should have been done beforehand, but I wasn't going to use them. So they fit down in there, and then you have to bend them around. They have to feed through those chutes, and then they're going to have to connect to feed into the receiver. No go for me. So that's something to look at. It can be done. You'd have to use some cement or heat or something, soften that plastic to get it to maneuver around, but it's risky at best. All right, so then we have the guns being mounted. Not very difficult. Just a matter of doing one at a time, making sure they're really seated in well in this part right here, and then just eyeballing them from the side and making sure that they are lined up horizontally and lined up parallel with each other. Okay, so that's step 19. Step 20, not really that much. This part here I did separately, and I've got it on some tape for painting separately. Same with the gun shield. And I went ahead and put this cross brace F14 on the gun shield, so that way I could just paint it as a whole thing, not have to glue painted parts together, and I could just slide it into place. This little sight right here, it was very fiddly, but not really that big of a deal to get it put together. The photo etch part looks really, really good. You know, I'm one of those kind of people that I don't like photo etch just for photo etch sake. I like it to be something that really makes a difference, and that's one of those parts that makes a difference. That looks really good as a photo etch part. No way in plastic. Then we have these things right here. These are covers. And if I'm not mistaken, they are covers that when the spent shell casings come out of the receiver, they go into there and feed down through that chute I was telling you about here. And I guess they just fall into this thing here and they empty them out later or something. I don't know. But yeah, that's another one of those things that the part just did not fit with everything assembled, because this is the shape of it, and the way it's supposed to feed in, it's supposed to go in from the top, and there's a little triangular shaped pin that fits in a little slot right there, and doesn't fit. It won't fit all the way down in there because this part here interferes with this. So if I had it to do over again, I would not have glued those parts in place in step what was it, step 14. I would have waited. I would have put these in place first, because this is supposed to fit right there, right in between there, and it's just not going to do it. I would have put these in place first, and then put these parts in place and just pushed them as far forward as I could, resting on these without, you know, it might not be completely vertical, but at least it would have fit. So, And I tried cutting the bottoms off of these. I tried all kinds of ways to get it to fit, and it's just not happening. Not happening. Just way too tight of a fit. See, it won't go in there straight because of this part here. Now I could break those off, put these in place, and then glue those back. But honestly, you know, I'm at the point I'm not going to mess with it. Once I get the gun shield on with the sight and all that kind of stuff, it's not going to be as noticeable. The hardcore people are going to know it if they look in there and see it, but I don't know too many hardcore people. So that is that. And the gun sight, I'm not actually, or the ring and post sight, I'm not going to actually put on till after I get it painted, and then it should just drop right into place right there, and it'll be right behind the the main gun shield and next to this one here. Then once that is done, I can get this stuff glued together. Now something else I did. I did not glue these onto the side walls of the vehicle because there are no markings inside of the vehicle that tell you where these parts G1 are supposed to be. But on the actual additional armor plates that go together, that goes down on top of this, there are markings where they're supposed to be. So that's what I did. I glued them to this instead, along with the antenna, and then I've got tape on here for the exterior painting, but it'll fit into place, and then all I have to do is just glue these inside of there. So that will work nicely. All right, so that's pretty much it. So I've done as much construction as I can until I get some stuff painted. So as I said, I've got everything all primed and ready to go. So in the next video, I can do the primary painting, which is the Dunkelgelb, and then I can start working on the camouflage painting. So that's pretty much it. That actually went a lot quicker than I thought it was. You know, other than some weird things with the instructions, and again, it's the Dragon instructions. If they would have been in a different sequence, or if they'd have thought out some of these other parts, like those, like the this part here being put on in an earlier stage, as well as these being put on before these, so these being put on in a later stage, pretty much all the problems, or challenges I should say, would be pretty much non-existent. It would have went a lot smoother. But that's Dragon instructions for you. And just even reading ahead, not knowing how all these parts are going to fit together, you just don't know sometimes until you stumble across these situations. You just don't know they're there till you get stuff actually put together. You can eyeball things, you can kind of, like, you know, you can't really tape them together. So, you know, you sometimes just run into them later and there's not a whole lot you can do about it. So it is what it is, as they say. One of my all-time most disliked phrases, but in this case it's appropriate. But other than that, I think once it all gets together, it's going to look just fine, because, you know, you can't really complain about the detail on these things. The detail's really nice. The parts look really good. And the end product, I think, is going to be really good, really nice. So, yeah, I think that's pretty much it. So that's the end of part 6 condensed of the Dragon 1/35 scale SdKfz 251/21 drilling. So next time when I come back, we'll do some paint, the base paint, Dunkelgelb. Then we'll get some camouflage going, some final assembly, detail painting, and that kind of stuff. And decals. There's a few decals for it. So yeah, that is it. So if you like this video, think about hitting the subscribe button. If you want to see the full hour and 21 minute in-depth step-by-step of parts, so steps 14 through 21 and a half, let's say, click on the link in the description box or on the end screen link if I remember to put it there. That way you can watch the whole shooting match. So, thanks for watching Plastic Models by a Regular Dude, and I will see you all later.